And welcome back. It's now time for our cooking segment, and this morning we have dietitian Carrie Snyder here this morning, and we're talking about diabetics and diabetes because it's National Diabetes Awareness Month, and she's going to show us some dishes that are diabetic friendly.
Yes. Something with this month for National Diabetes Month, they're focusing on just eating well, and something we're going to talk about at the very end is just kind of that balanced plate that a lot of times we use when working with a patient with diabetes. And one of the things I thought of for today is, you know, it's fall. I want to kind of bring in some fall flavors. So those are some recipes that I chose from their website. So we're going to use 2 cups of just some chicken broth.
Okay.
And today, I know I've used this on here before, and I like it this time of year just because it can be a substitute for if we're making stuffing for Thanksgiving. And also, it's a nice substitute for rice just because it's higher in the protein, because when we use quinoa, we use it as a substitute for grain, but it's actually a seed. So that's where it gets that protein from. And what we're gonna do is I just stir it kind of together, and we're gonna bring this to a boil.
Okay.
And once it comes to a boil, just set it on simmer for 15 minutes. And I usually just set my timer and go start working on other things. Now, just to kind of talk about what we're gonna add, when that 15-minute timer goes off, we have about a ½ cup of some craisins that we're going to add in for about 5 minutes, and it's just going to reconstitute them. They're just going to swell up, soak up that water. So that'll add nice flavor. And then we add about a ½ teaspoon of parsley also. Now what we're going to move on to is there's kind of a dressing that we put on it at the end. And something I always like to show is these dressings that are so easy to make. We don't have to buy them at home, or excuse me, buy them from the store. So with this first dressing I'm going to make, it is for our quinoa. So we're going to start with about 1 clove of garlic. And then we're going to use some balsamic vinegar.
Okay.
And for this, we're using about 2 tablespoons. And this, you can just add at the very end when that's done cooking. You'll just add this dressing on there. And the nice thing about this recipe, you can have it cold or hot.
Oh, I like that.
We're going to have it hot today, but if you have leftovers, yeah, it's easy then to use. So then we're also going to add about a couple tablespoons of olive oil.
Okay.
And then I'm not going to measure this one, but it's about a ½ teaspoon of Dijon mustard. So
just going to eyeball it.
Eyeball it, yeah.
That's what we like.
Just add that little bit. And we're going to stir that together.
Okay.
If you want to, you can add just a little bit of fresh ground pepper to this. It doesn't really need salt. You know, the stock that you use for your chicken stock, you can buy low sodium and fat-free. That's the nice thing about it. So we're going to add this to when this is done. What I have up here on the very corner of the table is just different types of quinoa people can purchase. I always tell people, some say, I don't like the taste of it. Well, something that I don't think sometimes people think about, if you buy it in bulk, which is an example of this white one down there at the bottom, you really want to rinse it, okay, and let it soak for a little bit, and it kind of gets this little bitter taste off of it. Or you can buy a box like this, and if it says pre-washed, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Okay.
No matter what kind of quinoa you buy, they all kind of have the same health benefits, or is it better than the other?
Well, they're all about the same amount of protein.
Okay.
So we're going to serve up about a ½ cup of this quinoa today, and it's going to be about 6 grams of protein and then about 30 grams of carbohydrates.
Very good.
Granted, our little cranberries are adding a little bit to that.
Okay.
So our next dressing we're going to make is for our salad. So something that we really try and focus with our patients with diabetes is trying to think about half of that plate coming from vegetables, whatever vegetable that is you want, having about a quarter of it come from some sort of protein, and then another quarter come from this carbohydrates.
Okay.
And that's what we're working on making. So we're going to make a dressing for our salad. And for that, we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of orange juice. So it has a little sweetness to it.
Okay.
But it also has some Dijon mustard.
Yeah.
So I think it goes really well with what else we're making.
And with the salad that you have on the plate is actually an orange and walnut salad. So the dressing that you're making, because a lot of people are probably thinking, okay, orange juice for a dressing, it's going to go and complement what we have as our vegetable side very nicely.
And we're going to do about a tablespoon of honey.
Okay.
And again, this recipe here is it's supposed to be for about 8 people.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a little bit of flavor that we're adding to it. Also, about 2 teaspoons of Dijon. And again, I'm just going to kind of estimate there. I don't always like to measure. The other thing it calls for is, on this recipe, and we're going to have it online for this, is walnut oil. I'm going to use just olive oil. You can really exchange for whatever you want. It says for about 1/4 cup. So I'm just going to do a kind of, usually about a circle equals, 1 circle equals about 1 tablespoon, and there's 4 tablespoons in
Interesting.
1/4 cup.
Okay.
So at home, I'm hardly ever measuring things.
That's
so,
fine.
and we are going to mix that up.
Whisk it up.
Whisk it up.
And then you're just going to pour it on top of the salad?
Yep, all you have to do, I just usually take this whisk and then I'm just going to drizzle it on top.
Okay, so while you do that, we'll check on the quinoa again, and hopefully when we come back from commercial break, everything will be finished so we can show off the final
that's
product.
exactly
All
right.
And if you're just joining us, we just made a quinoa with cranberries and pine nuts salad, as well as an orange and walnut salad to serve as some side dishes when you are preparing meals for diabetics. We have dietitian Carrie Snyder here this morning, and she's talking about diabetes this morning because it is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and she was talking about the importance of having a well-balanced meal, what to include in your meal, and that is healthy for the diabetics out there. So really quickly, kind of, you know, like you said, it's like a plate system where you have...
Yeah, this is the plate, we kind of call it the plate method in my world, and it is a simple way to just help our patients with diabetes try and just kind of look at their plate and how they want to break it down. And it helps with meal planning, helps things just try and make a little bit healthier approach to eating.
All right, and there we go. And right now we have the walnut with orange salad, as well as the quinoa with the cranberries. What you used was cran raisins. Is that what
they're called craisins.
Craisins. There we go.
But, yeah.
And so we cooked up the quinoa, which you also had mentioned that it is a grain and it is not in the rice family, correct?
Well, it's actually we substitute it for grain, but it's actually a seed.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
and that's where it has an increased protein that we get from it. So that's where I like to, especially with our patients with diabetes, we're always talking about this protein and carbohydrate balance. So that's what's a nice thing about it. And what I added at the very end after I was done cooking was just some pine nuts. And again, don't like pine nuts, you could use anything, whether it's pecans or walnuts.
Right.
So.
And you said the nice thing about the quinoa is that you can, you know, if you have it for dinner, eat it hot, and if you have some leftovers, it's just as good cold the next day.
You could honestly throw it together with a salad or just eat it cold as is.
All right, perfect. So what we'll do is we'll post both recipes on our website at KTVO.com. We'll link up Carrie's information as well. Again, thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.